All right. You know, there are many federal laws, too numerous for you and I to discuss here this evening. But if you're elected, is there one act that you feel that must be accomplished within that first term of office? And what would it be? And why would that be so important to you?
Well, first of all, I think that, and I will answer the question, but the first thing I think that has to happen is we have to stop the out-of-control legislation. And when I get asked the question, what's your first piece of legislation you'll work on? I say, piece of legislation? Man, we need to stop the out-of-control legislating that's going on and put the brakes on and slow down. I really think that there needs to be some repealing of a lot of things that has been done. There's been so many things passed, again, that are unconstitutional, that there's no authority, no right for those things to be there. And so the federal government growing to a size that really is way beyond its boundaries, we have to take a look at that first and say, if we don't get those things right, it really doesn't matter how many good pieces of legislation we pass. We're going to continue to run off the rails here. And of course, there are some things that, I feel are important to be passed. I'm a strong advocate that we need to audit the Federal Reserve. Of course, there's already legislation that has been written, but even the author wouldn't even vote for it because by the time it got to the floor, it was so inundated with junk. And so we have to fight for what's right. And of course, there's good things that need to be passed, but I don't think it's the first thing that needs to be done. We need to look at what we have to undo more than what we got to do.
All right. There was a piece of legislation that was put forth. It was House Resolution 257. It was introduced by Representative Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas. And that legislation could send a citizen to prison if a criminal stole their gun and used it in a crime. Would you support this type of legislation, or if not, why not?
Of course, would not support that kind of legislation. It's really a very backward way of looking things. I mean, it's just as backward as saying if someone broke into your garage and stole anything, a hammer, and then took that hammer and used it to kill somebody, that the police need to come to your house and say, well, you didn't commit this crime. This is your hammer, right? And so now you're guilty for aiding and abetting in some way. That really, all this is not about trying to keep people responsible. This is a move to try to eliminate gun ownership in this country, and that's a violation of the Second Amendment. We can talk all day about, is that right or wrong? Of course it's wrong. But it's so wrong, it's obvious that this is really just an opportunity, another attack on gun ownership. And so, no, it's a bad piece of legislation. I wouldn't support it, and the obvious reasons being that people have a right to own guns. Of course, we need to be responsible with those guns. I'm not going to leave it outside on the porch and invite somebody to come and use it. But, to pass legislation like that, there is an agenda behind something like that must be stopped.
All right. This race, if you would go to Washington, there's a lot that's going to change in your life. And one of the things would be kind of where we're sitting here tonight, your ministry. How do you see this, if you were elected, how do you see it impacting that? What happens there?
Well, for those that may care, I've strived to build my ministry as far as church ministry is concerned to be an equipping ministry. And so if the church falls apart in my absence, it needs to fall apart. It's not built around me. I'm not the peg that holds everything together. The other aspect of this is that I personally believe I feel should be the attitude of the church, and that is that every member, every believer is a minister. Well, we're not going to really accept that until we understand that every job that people do is a ministry. And so if we are convicted that we're doing whatever it is that we're supposed to be doing, then we should be doing that with our whole heart and for the right reasons. And so for me, yeah, there will be changes geographically, but principally, there shouldn't be any changes. I mean, I'm still living on a set of principles that have been laid for me through my own personal faith. I'm going to live by those principles with as much conviction as I can muster, and to try to guard those principles the best I can, even in an environment that obviously it becomes very difficult to do in. But, for myself, my mindset, my focus doesn't change that much. I'm not looking to pastor the nation, but I am looking to live my life on the same set of principles. So for me, it doesn't change a lot, though obviously geographically in the way that works out on a day-to-day basis, there's a lot of changes involved.
Very good. The federal government did just pass the health care bill 3590. What are your thoughts on it, and do you feel it's good or bad, and why?
Sound like a broken record. Very bad because it's unconstitutional. For the first time in American history, Americans, by law, would be forced to buy something, which you can't do. The 10th Amendment says that, in layman's terms, that basically the federal government only has the right to do that which is prescribed, or the responsibility to do that which is prescribed by the Constitution for it to do, and is prohibited from doing anything else. But everything else that's not prohibited by the Constitution is left up for the states and the people. And so, if states want to take up health care issues, that's where it belongs, in the sovereignty of the states. For the federal government to try to do something like that, it's unconstitutional really on many levels, from the perspective of basically taking one man's wealth and giving it to somebody else. And I understand the humanitarian aspect of it, but when we start doing things because just on humanitarian purposes alone, where we're engaging in a foundation of political philosophies, you're talking about communism. And obviously communism is oppressive, it's controlling, it limits every aspect of a person's life to do and be everything that they may dream and want to be, and that's everything opposed to what our country stands for. And so I believe we have to have levels of health care reform, and there's ways of doing that. Of course, through tort and different things like that.
All right. We have probably the hardest question for you of the night. This one's really difficult, and if you don't get this one right, we're all in big trouble. But the last question is, there are a lot of people that don't get to attend different events that we've been able to be at and get to see you and hear you, and we appreciate you doing this tonight. How can people find out more about you? What is your campaign site, and how can they get in touch with you if they want to invite you to some event? And please be specific and spell that as people are listening.
Well, our website for the campaign is liggettforcongress.com, and that's Liggett for Congress, everything's spelled out, .com. And on the website, there's lots of ways that you can get involved. You can get on our email list. Our phone number is there, which is 330-987-5562. Any questions that are presented on that phone number, I call and answer those questions myself. Any emails that are given in question form, I respond to those personally. And of course, there are videos on the website. You can look at those videos. I talk about the issues. They're short, 3 to 4 minutes, to the point. So those are the basic ways. Liggettforcongress.com.
Very good. We're wrapping it up here with the Ohio Free Press with Hombre Liggett, running for the 18th congressional seat, and we'll see you on the other side.